Fellow tennis nerds, I'm here with a returning guest. He's also returned to the tour and won his future title, and now the first one after returning, doing really well. Nice to see him again. My tennis HQ, Karue Sell. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you? It's good to be back. We always have good chats here.
Yeah,
Early
yeah,
morning chats with coffee, and
yeah, yeah. It's for you. It's morning.
it's
It's a
nice.
safe
Yeah, I know.
space.
It is a safe space. I love it.
Yeah. So you have rain over there. You just told me before we got on. So how frustrating is that for a pro player not to be able to practice?
It's a bit frustrating. Again, I think, doing a lot more focus, I guess, on the physical work of things in the last, I'd say, 2 months. That I'm not too worried about, like, not playing, like, I'll pick up quick after that. But if you can maintain the fitness, so that's what I've been doing the last few days, just kind of going to the gym and keeping that routine going. Because again, the tennis, comes back. If anything, sometimes it takes like 4 days off, and then it's all muscle memory, and you're just hitting the ball well. And if you're still in somewhat good shape, like you're gonna play well. So yeah, a bit annoying, but it doesn't happen where I live. We're always like fine weather-wise. So but we needed some rain, and it's okay. It is what it is.
Yeah, and gives you time to focus on maybe fitness, which you have done. Like I've seen your posts on Instagram, you're working quite hard with a physical trainer and really getting ready. Have you noticed like pretty strong improvements in your game when you really put extra attention on the fitness side?
Yeah, I'm actually like working on a video about that right now. So kind of going over, I'd say, the last like 2 months of why we started this, and what was, I think, the goals and all that. And I think basically, the fitness side of things has never been what I like in tennis. It's just, I like playing sports. Like if I'm not even when I wasn't competing, I wasn't like just going to the gym person. I find that so incredibly boring. So for me, playing sports is always fun. Anything that like engages, hand-eye coordination or body coordination. You have to kind of figure something out versus just maybe lifting or running. So it's always been like, sort of my Achilles heel, that part of it. And then so working with Andrew, he has this social media page, Andrew Maltijan, Fit for Tennis is social media. And I reached out to him. I was like, look, I need someone that would keep me like doing this, because I know I won't. Like I will, do it, but like maybe half-ass it a little bit, and kid myself that it's helping. And he kind of came in, hot. He was like, let's start it, like whatever it was, early December. He's like, next week I'm there, and we just kind of started putting in the work. And I tried this time to just go at it like without questioning anything, and just trusting what he's telling me to do, and allow the results to kind of like come to me versus like seeking it too much. And I think he designed like really cool workouts that allowed me to you know continue to come back every day, and not be super like bored and all that stuff. And quickly, I think the first like week and a half or two, I was like struggling a little bit. But then there was like a shift. All of a sudden I was like, wait, I have like, I just did fitness and I played like 2.5 hours, and I was like, I could keep going here. There was like a sort of like towards the end of December there, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm starting to like actually feel good here." And it was kind of the first time I noticed that improvement. And then going into the season, playing, I played a UTR event just to get a lot of matches in, but also to feel like, oh, am I, you know, now I'm gonna play back to back to back 6 matches, all that stuff. How am I gonna feel? Um, so that already like showed me that I was like better, like feeling better physically. And then playing that 25K and having a couple like difficult, difficult three setters and going back to back and still winning the tournament. I was like, oh, this is for real. Like I can play a lot better tennis now that I'm just physically in a better place. So
Awesome. Now, do you notice
Yeah,
the recovery being easier? Because you know, when you play a lot of matches in a row, I mean, you've been very successful in your return to the tour. So
yeah.
obviously, that's going to put a lot of strain on the body. Do you notice like recovery times are better when you're more fit? You know, overall.
Yes, that I mean, those are the main things, right? It was like increasing, I'd say increasing like speed and agility on court, and just overall strength. But recovery times, I knew, even from just playing like the few tournaments I played last year, um, I almost like I feel like I just kind of managed myself into wins last year. You know what I mean? I got, my game is good. I'm kind of older. I could pick my almost like pick my times to grind a lot more versus just sort of coast a little bit through the match if it's allowed at the time. But I know, like, if you're gonna go a full season, that's just not gonna cut out. Like last year, even when I won a future and stuff, like the matches were kind of fast because we are playing altitude, so it wasn't like too bad physically. And a lot of the other tournaments I played, I was sleeping at home, and it wasn't like very physically demanding. So now, having that first week of the year, or first future of the year, being able to, I think I played the second round. I played the 2 seed, and I won 3 sets. And I had to come back the following day and played another 3-setter. And at no point I was like, I'm kind of fading away physically here. So um, that recovery part, plus, like, taking the right supplements and or trying to like do that part as well, um, has been like actually, for the first time, I think I'm really noticing that progress, that it gives you a lot of confidence to feel physically like good. I'm not saying I'm, nowhere near, I think, a guy like, in the top 100 yet, but it is a step in the right direction. And you're like, oh, like I can, I can get the balls a little faster. I can be more aggressive more often in shots that maybe I wasn't before. I can dig that one ball. I had that one extra 2 or 3 balls to keep the pressure on. And I think that creates pressure throughout the match. And now I'm enjoying that I'm like, oh, I can physically just like stay with this guys. Even if I'm older, we can do this all day. And if we're doing this all day, I like my chances because of the way I play.
Do you feel like your kind of maturity compared to some players that you face now on the tour, since you took a break from professional tennis and now you're back? Do you feel like the maturity is helping you a lot in terms of matches, in terms of feeling what is the right approach for my tennis now, like going more for the fitness, eating perhaps better, doing the supplements, doing all that more professional stuff, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think, there's, I, I'm the old guy now in a lot of the events. You know what I mean? I'm going there. I'm like, man, literally everyone here is younger than me, aside from maybe one or two guys. And I think there's just like a level of like, yeah, you're a little bit more mature, and maybe have a bit more confidence in what you do. And that's still something that you sort of like every week have to remind yourself that what you're doing it works. You know what I mean? You don't have to like week to week, make crazy changes, because unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of condition changes on the tour, and there are weeks that is just not going to be for your game. Very few people can make unbelievable adjustments week in, week out. Um, but in the weeks that it's a weird thing. I think you sort of feel a momentum like on your side when it's like, even in Ithaca, I was like, oh, I won the first match and it was a tough first round, but I won it pretty convincingly. And then beat Kingsley. And then all of a sudden I had kind of like a tough quarterfinal there, but all of a sudden I'm like, I'm kind of sort of feeling the momentum, like my way to go long at this tournament. And sometimes you don't feel that, but sometimes you do. So it's almost like, again, old guy stuff, just like understanding those things, and writing it as much as you can, not like really, overthinking it a bit too much. And then, yeah, I think there's something to be said about like once you turn when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, I think you sort of have like just, like grown men strength, like you're just kind of strong through it. And I can play with these guys. I'm not maybe as athletic as them, but I'm strong with them, and I can do this like, and I can make things physical and difficult for them as well. So you have that clarity, you have that trust in your game, and if you feel physically fine, things can align and you might win a tournament. You're just, you're not going to win every week, but that puts you in a good position. I think typically my problem was the physical part. Like, I could beat anybody, but maybe I couldn't come back the next day and do it again. And now I don't feel that way. So that gives me a lot of confidence going into the season.
That's awesome. And do you plan to play like a full on season, or I mean, how far in your scheduling are you? Do you plan like months ahead? Do you have your whole year planned out, or it depends
It
how it goes, I guess?
it's trickier because it always depends on your rankings, right? Like I'm obviously kind of making jumps right now, from what I'm in the 600s, and that's been quickly within what, like five tournaments, five futures events that I've played since, I'd say, what, September. Um, my plan, I'm not planning too far ahead. I'm sticking futures until I can basically guarantee myself in like qualities of challengers. And I don't want to like sort of. It's tricky with the challenger level because there were challengers this week that I could have played the qualies, but I'm not gonna last second go to Australia. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm actually gonna get in there. I'm gonna hop on a flight and go to Australia or India. It just, it's a really tricky thing. I just got my player zone back, so you have to be on the ITF thing and then on the ATP thing, and like which ones are you going to play, and the list closes in different weeks, and it's a bit complicated, to be honest. I'm kind of getting my footing back on that part, but I don't like last minute decisions to play. I like to, like, I'm gonna go there, and I'm mentally focused on going there, and I'm gonna play those events. So for now, till March, I'm planning on only playing futures because I'm leaving. I'm going to play one future in Portugal. My plan was to stay in Portugal for 3 weeks and play 25Ks there. But for whatever reason, those are incredibly like difficult 25Ks. Like I'm in qualies of the first one. I think I would have been in qualies of the second one as well. And at 600, like it's a tricky thing because now a quarterfinal doesn't really do much for the ranking. Now I got to go deep into these events, and I don't really have a lot of time to waste like battling guys 300 in the world for a point. You know what I mean? I want to battle them, but I want to battle them for 8 points and 12 points and 20 points. So I'm gonna go to Portugal for a week. I'm gonna go to Egypt for 2, and try to like rack up some points there. Come back. There's 225s in March here in California, and then reassess, like see where I'm at. If I'm in the 400s, 500, low 500s, I can start like maybe planning on going for some challengers a little bit more often, and 25Ks. But basically, I'd say the first 6 months it will be a mix of 25s and challenger qualities.
Yeah, and that must be like a part of the pro life, right? Like you need to plan properly. I think I see a lot of like pros, or I do see a lot of pros go kind of like you said, oh, last minute, I get a spot here. I mean, sometimes you have to do that, but it rarely turns out really well because you're not mentally prepared. It's like when you arrive to a tennis court too late for a match and you're all over the place, right? You usually lose the first games or get broken or something. So I think that's smart that you're assessing it maybe quarterly or just a few months, and then we see where I'm at. Then we do the next assessment because the tennis tour is a wild place. Things
Yeah,
change all the time. There's tournament restrictions here. There's different entries there. There some draws in some countries are super stacked, and
yeah.
some draws are easy, relatively speaking.
Exactly. I mean, you see, this week the challengers. I mean, there's a 50K in Great Britain, and that closes like 600 in the qualies. But then again, you have 100K in India, and that closes 900 in the qualies. But it's like it's so tricky to be like, it's Thursday, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm actually gonna get in this qualies in India. Like, let's go. I'm like, that's crazy. I just, for me, that won't work. I know, like, mentally, I'm already gonna be going in a bad space. So I like to plan like little pockets and assess. Obviously, you got to assess how you're doing, your level, like all those things. Like I'm sure if I was playing a lot of challengers, I win matches and all that stuff. But I'm still coming back, and I want to like really just like get a good amount of matches in this 15s and establish myself there, and then move on. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, if you somehow are going to get in and, an ATP qualies last second or something like that, like because sometimes that happens, like on a Los Cabos or something like that. People get in there 4, 5, 600. Obviously, you're gonna go for that, but right now it's like it is a little bit tricky, and I see a lot of dudes doing that. It's like, I was like, what is this guy doing in like Bolivia? I get it, you got in, but you're like, you're a college player, an American college player that's never played on clay, and you're gonna go last second to altitude clay challengers. I'm like, that's not gonna work. You know what I mean? It's like, I saw there's like a couple new challengers in, because I'm looking at this 50Ks to see how they're gonna be, and there's 2 challenges in a row in, like, I think Rwanda, Kigali, Rwanda, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll probably would get in those, but it's like, it's altitude clay. Like, what am I doing there? You know what I mean? That's just not gonna help my game in any way. So, if you kind of understand a little bit about yourself, at least you can, make a schedule that gives you a bit more of a chance to go on deep runs versus just like, I'm just playing here because I got in. I mean, that's what works for me. Not saying it's for everybody. It works for me.
I mean, you have to evaluate your odds, right? So if you're confident on this surface, if you have time to prepare, you're gonna increase your odds of winning, right? Or getting
Mm.
through some rounds. If you go, I mean, the tour is so tough that if you just go and play against your odds, for a few weeks or whatever, then it's gonna go downhill most likely. I mean, unless it's some kind of a abnormal
Yeah, right now
situation.
in the US in February, and it's every February, is a bit annoying. It's always just this green clay uh, futures. And it's strong ones, strong, like 15K that have been in the qualies. So it's like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of just like clay in Florida that I'm just kind of like that. And I see all the guys that are like, you're not clay quarters, but that's what they have to play because, you don't want to travel too far. You want to save some money. A lot of people live in Florida, so it's I understand it, but it's just like a crappy, like, choice for me. I feel like if I was doing those 3, I'd be like, I'm just kind of doing it because they're here, and I'm not that bad on clay. I'm fine on clay. I grew up on clay, but you know, especially at my age, I don't want to just be like mess around and go to these events and just like, I'll just play these and as a placeholders until I can play, like, here Bakersfield, Calabasas are 2 great ones that I think are good for my conditions. So good for my game, the conditions. And so, yeah, it's tough. I'm still kind of readjusting to the life of it. Because, I want to just be mentally prepared to go at it, like, when I go. And so whatever that means, if I have to plan ahead, if I have to be home a little longer, a couple of the weeks, and not just like, I could have gotten in there, I should have gone, but just resetting training going. It's hard to get those training blocks during the season, so whenever you can is actually good to do as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's where your experience or maturity comes in, like that you can actually assess scheduling and mental fitness and so on. And as you pointed out on your Instagram reels, like the traveling is one of the roughest parts. So like making sure that the travel situation is not gonna exhaust you, take all your energy away, and make you very frustrated before you arrive or after you're going and like transitioning between tournaments. So what's your recent travel experience been on the tour?
um Kind of bad, to be honest. I played two events. First one, it was in Ithaca, New York, so it's it's small town, small airport, northeast. It's cold. I mean, it was properly cold and snowing out there. To get there was fine. But then, there's always limited options out of there. So, I finished on Sunday. Didn't have any flights to get out of there, so had to leave on Monday, like, really early, from Ithaca, and flight got delayed. Eventually, flight got canceled because something happened with the crew, and there's not a lot of options. And I'm trying to get to, I'm gonna get a Wednesday start in the following event, but I wake up at 3 a.m. to fly to Tampa, basically, and I get there. I had to rent a car, drive to another airport, fly to JFK, fly down to Tampa. Like, it took me, 3 a.m. wake up to get to Tampa around like 8 p.m. For a basically 2-hour flight down. And so, like, I'm like, man, I could have, from LA, I could have gone to like Japan, like just one straight flight. I would have been in Japan. So it was kind of like a bad start, and then basically I lose that entire day. I get one day to hit in Florida, the day before playing, and it's you're going from indoors to Florida outdoors, gritty, slow, windy, humid, and you just don't have the chance to really get a feel for how the matches are going to be played there. And you sort of go into the first round a bit like deer in the headlights. You don't really know what's happening. You just kind of hoping to ride the confidence from the week before. But quickly you realize like the way I was playing last week is just not going to work this week, and you just I barely had time to like figure anything out, and I was already out. So I the traveling is the part I hate the most about playing tennis by a lot. Playing pro tennis, it's never fun. Like being in airports, being all that stuff. Like I don't mind staying in hotel rooms. Like that part is fine. I think some people like struggle a little bit with that kind of loneliness. I'm okay with that, but really just being like airports and dealing with all that stuff and time changes and all that, it's pretty brutal. So having a set plan way before that, you can, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going to be at, it helps out. And then trying to again not bounce around too much. The US is a bit tricky with that, to be honest, because the US is so big. So it's like you're going to have a tournament in Florida, and you might have a tournament in Texas, Oklahoma, whatever. It can be actually a little bit tougher, I think, than playing in Europe if you're an European, like just like living there and traveling by train and all that. But it is the nature of the game, and it is what it is. But you sort of have to plan your own way, I guess.
Yeah, I think that is one of the the key challenges. I think also for a lot of players is to kind of plan that, be able to afford it. Like everything, if you have to rebook flights, rent a car, everything adds up in cost as well. So then the
Yeah.
cost calculation of what you're winning in the tournament possibly is not going to be so positive in the end, because you have to have all this hassle which you
Yeah.
can't really control, right? So it's like force majeure shit.
Yeah, I mean, I money wise with this, like I'm not even thinking about it. Like I'm, whatever I earn in the tournaments goes basically into paying the bills. I have someone helping with some of the bills in on tour, so that's been a bit of a takes away a little bit of my stress. If it's $100, I have to rent this car to go there, whatever. It's fine. I know it's gonna be covered, but I know if I wasn't in a situation where I'd be getting this help, like it's so expensive to play right now. Like you talk about inflation, like hotels are nothing is below like $140, $130 a night. Like flights in the US are not cheap, and just like the cost of anything, if you're taking Ubers, if you're renting a car, I mean it's a couple $1,000s a week to play, like easy. It's an easy, unless obviously like you're staying with a bunch of people, or maybe you're getting an Airbnb, and you know what I mean. Everyone's splitting costs, but just doing solo the way I'm doing it, um, it's crazy expensive. It's actually like has gotten like, I remember back in the day it wasn't that bad. Like a lot of tournaments offered housing, and you kind of travel around. It wasn't that bad, and now it's like, ooh, like these weeks are costly. Like they're 20, 21, $2,500 like a week. It's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think, for a lot of players makes it almost impossible to keep doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like your YouTube channel adds, I mean, it adds something financially, but also like a motivational thing? I think we talked about this before, but it's like something where you can use content, or you can use learnings, or you can, not, maybe you did not decide to do it like Felix, from Tennis Brothers. You went a different way. Are you happy
Mm-hmm.
with that choice, like the way you're, handling it on your channel?
Yeah. I mean, I obviously the channel. There's something about the channel that's nice, that it's almost like it kind of keeps you accountable in a lot of ways. Now I'm sharing this journey, and I'm trying to whatever the end goal is, like maybe play Grand Slam qualies, and from there just I want to really become like a challenger player first, and then from there see what happens. But it's all of it is a personal challenge, but sharing it keeps you accountable to continue to do the right thing. So that's something that I enjoy. But then yes, like Felix, obviously like he's filmed a lot more in tournaments, and he makes a lot more content, I think, in events than I do. And I think this Ithaca event was the first time I was actually able to film matches. That I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it because it was very simple. Like it wasn't even one of those like tall things that you have to like set the camera up there. It was like right there. It was just a bar that I had to like put the tripod and my phone, and that was it. So I was like, I'm gonna do that here. But I, I it's hard. I mean, I've talked about it before. It's just like one of those things. Like you might feel like you're putting a lot of your mental capacity into how am I going to create content, and then you might not have enough mental capacity to win your matches. And there's that push and pull of doing it, can be difficult. So when things are easy to set up and I feel like it's like, it's gonna be fine. I'm just using my phone anyways to record, so it's easy. Um, I will do it, but if in the process of playing and hopefully climbing up the rankings, I can make as much content, so be it. It's just gonna have to be what it is. So, and I'm not like Jules Marie, who has like a full camera crew with him as well. Like you know what I mean? There's people doing it in different ways, and it works. But I want to get as many matches as I can. I think people have enjoyed the matches. The last match I posted with Canon, like people really have enjoyed that. So if I can get more of this matches on video, I'd like to. But aside from that, yeah, you have to kind of pick your battles.
The content idea, I think it's good for you. I mean, just my observation is that just to have the priority clear. Like, what is the priority? Is it the content or is it the my journey as a tennis player?
Yeah.
Because I think you can't prioritize two things at once. You need to have one list of things, and I think that seems to be working for you, at least in terms of what comes first, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely working. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable like with filming too, because I think at first like I was so removed. I don't know these guys and how are they gonna feel about, like, me being the guy that films, whatever it is. But everyone actually seems to be pretty cool about it. I've gotten even from my peers a lot of stuff like, I love what you're doing, like this is awesome. And that's something that maybe I wasn't expecting as much. And so, sort of getting a little bit more, getting my foot in and just getting to know the guys a little bit and getting maybe a bit more comfortable than pulling out a camera and, they'll be okay with filming and all that stuff. So I think, I traveled those 2 weeks. Simon was there as well. So he was obviously making a lot of content, and there were some other guys there, making content as well. So it's starting to become a little bit more of a thing, which is nice. I think people are starting to realize there's an opportunity there to maybe share their story, to maybe earn a little money or create a little buzz about themselves, which is at the end of the day what we're doing. And so, I think in the future, especially in the US, I don't know I don't know a lot of the guys maybe play in Europe, but especially in the US, I'll be able to get some more matches on film, and that in itself, it's like always great content. And for me, I like having the matches because you can always like look back and it's like, oh, I was doing this pretty well. I remember this match I was doing this well. Can I go back and look? Like there is something to be said about just I, the culture in tennis isn't necessarily film yourself all the time. It's a tricky thing, but I I think there's something there that if man, I played this great match here, or 3 months ago I was hitting my forehand really well. Can I go back and see? It's like, oh, that I was doing this really well. So you can find these like little things that might bring you back to a nice baseline. And so it's almost like a little journal, like it's like a video journal that you're making about your game. And as you kind of go along, and maybe one thing is trending up in your game, and you're gonna have the footage of that, and I can always go back and look at it. I go back to like that this one video that I made. It's like my forehand's on fire, and it's like one of a video that did really well for us. And I go back to it like probably once every 2 weeks just to like watch what I was doing. I'm not really worried about what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying, but I'm like, oh, there it is. Like I was doing that. Like, oh, my hips are coming through a little bit better there. And I try to like shape myself back into that forehand. So having that visual is great. And so, for a lot of players, they don't film themselves, and by the time maybe you're in challengers, you're going to start watching more. But before you're not, and you maybe are missing an opportunity there.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, it's helps. I mean, it's helped me on my level as well, right? Like, if to film a lot, even if it's for testing rackets or making content, it's always good to look at you and say, okay, what am I doing wrong? Where is footwork? Where is this? And I think a lot of players are missing an opportunity, because it's becoming more normalized. But I think a lot of them still might feel a bit weird bringing the camera, getting questions, or just setting it up. Although it's not a lot of
Yeah,
work. It's something that maybe has some stigma still, although not that much anymore. People are so used to people having YouTube channels, like they watch people eat in a
yeah,
restaurant in front of a
yeah.
camera.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah, that's a lot weird. I would say, there are a lot of weirder things than filming yourself playing sports, I would say.
For sure. And yeah, and I I enjoy like being able to like look back at the matches or the whatever technical things that you're doing, and I think that's kind of how I'm like thinking about it nowadays. I'm like it's a little bit of like a journal for me. Like when I talk about a match, or when that's something that it's just a reflection video. It's like, hey, like in this match I did this or that. It's like sometimes you don't do that. Like if I wasn't doing it for the camera, I probably wouldn't do it. I would just not even think about it. Maybe not learn as much from that loss or that win as I should. So there is something to be said about just kind of like being able to watch, being able to reflect on it, even if I wasn't gonna post certain things. Like I had a lot more thoughts about the match, let's say with Kingsley that I posted recently, but it's already a long match. I also don't want to be like you have to be a little bit aware too. It's like you're not gonna just be like, yeah, you got to do this to beat this guy, and that's do that. That's what I was thinking. Like I don't want to get too crazy on the tactical side of things as well as in respect of my opponents. Like I just kind of want to play and film and share, and maybe there's like some things I can talk about my own game that like, oh, this was working here. Wish I was doing this a little bit better, but you also have to be a little bit aware of that, like not maybe get on the wrong side of people as well by just being like, yeah, that guy's back in the shit, I can just like, hit there. I'm like, that's kind of crazy, so you kind of have to like know how to, I guess, deliver that content well.
Yeah, it gets weird because you're on the same tour, right? So you're gonna face each other again, possibly. There's gonna be some resentment if you start by like, yeah, this guy's slides back and always lands too short, and then I attack it. So that
Yeah,
was the whole plan, and the next time it's
yeah,
gonna be like, I'm gonna destroy you. I'm gonna run around my upper back,
yeah. He's not gonna leave one slide short, you know what I mean? So I think with Canon, like it was fine. I had even commented on the videos like thanks for posting the entire match, because a lot of like I will always post a match. Like I think you know Felix does a little bit more of like a highlights and kind of like voiceovers a lot of the match, which works. But I always find it like you can't really paint the full picture of like what the match was, and you as a viewer, if you're watching a full match, you maybe don't know the result, and you're gonna feel the tension when the match is getting to certain parts. Like the match with Canon, the last two games were incredibly tight. It was like deuce ad on a 4-all service game from me, just intense. And then the next game was the same thing, deuce sad, and I was able to just basically the match ended there. It was like we were even through that entire point, and then a 4-all. I was able to pull through two very tough games and win the match. It could have easily gone the other way, but I think it would have been difficult to show that just with highlights. It's like, how do we get there? And then we got there, and now we have this like amazing like two games that like then you can really see, it's like, man, this match could have easily gone this way or that way. Like he wins the first set, he has a couple chances there, not to break me, but to keep the pressure on. He doesn't, and then all of a sudden I go ahead and that story of the match, like you can only watch it in when you watch it in full. So I hope to just like bring a lot more of those full matches. I won't be doing like highlights. We're gonna watch the whole thing, or we're not gonna watch at all.
I think that's great. Like I 100% subscribe to that opinion in that case, because if you're playing a competitive match, like it's a story in itself. Like this is the tennis scoring system at its best. So even if there's bad play, which there is in every match, right? There is periods when both players maybe a little bit nervous, tight in 5-5, whatever, or something's not firing in your game. That's where the learning is, and that's where the excitement can be.
Yeah,
That's
a
how you
hundred
build the
percent,
sport.
100%. And I think like that's like I think everyone gets so used to watching highlights, And then you watch like a practice set or you watch this and that, like a full match, and you're like, wow, there's so many errors. I'm like, what do you think it happens? Like, you think like we're just all hitting winners all the time? That's the point. The point is to move around, keep a ball in play, and hopefully the guy misses. The winners are difficult to come by, especially at this level, right? So it's like, oh man, like served really well in that moment, that pressure moment. First serve always came in. Maybe you served 50% the entire match first serve, but on pressure points you served 85. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
those things sometimes won't be able to be shown like just in highlights, and so it's a very watching the full match, especially when you cut all the fat down and it's just point, allows people to kind of see that. It's like, oh man, this guy was ripping the forehand, but then at 4-5, there was a few errors, and it's like, whoa, like that's what happened in that match. I was like, holding serve easy, holding serve easy. He's holding serve easy. Like I'm feeling good. I'm like, oh man, from the back, I'm like maybe have an advantage here. And at 4-5, new balls, got a little tentative with the shot selection, and I lost the game, and that was it. That was a set. I was like, God damn. I felt like I was maybe playing better this entire set. I never really got a chance to break, and I played two really bad points, like on important moments, and that was it. That was set. And so to show how we got there and how that tension was created is the fun part at whatever level that we see. We like tension. We like to see like people like almost like struggling with their craft and having to overcome it versus just like if I was just posting matches where I'm beating guys 1-1, what's the fun in that, you know?
No, it's a relatability as well because, like, I mean, tennis is full of mistakes. This is a sport full of mistakes, and it's a sport where the winner usually wins maybe a few up to 10 points in most matches more than the opponent. Like, you don't win like 90% of the points. That's then it's like a love. So it's like that key points. That's
Yeah.
the interesting, but you cannot capture the key point in a highlight because that's just saying, oh, here's the point where it got exciting, but you haven't built up the story, so there's no excitement there, right? There's no tension.
Exactly. I mean, I can be showing like all the important points, but how do we get there? How do we get to this position where it's like, all of a sudden it goes from maybe being I'd say like when I was playing Canon, it was 4-all 40-15, and you're like, okay, 40-15, boom, it's gonna be 5-4. I'm gonna try to break the next game. All of a sudden it's deuce. And then the tension is like so much higher, so much faster. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, it's like now you were 2 points away from like having this dude serve it out. And just to show that I think people got into it, and that's what I saw in the comments. I'm like, man, those last two games were crazy and stuff like that, but they were they watch all the way through there to really feel that tension, and then like really, again, it's a weird. Tennis tells the story in itself, so you just kind of just gotta allow people to watch it. So, and obviously, if the level is high, they're gonna enjoy it. So it's a really fun thing now to I think to. I want to film again a lot more matches. I want to have a lot more matches in the channel, as much as I can, but yeah, it's been kind of fun to see I'd say the reaction from people from watching those matches a little bit more.
I think people really enjoy watching full matches because of the things we highlighted. You don't start reading a book in chapter 6, right? When it gets
Mm.
exciting or whatever, you start reading a book and then the drama unfolds. But it's also like if you compare it to watching tennis on TV, like okay, there's ATP 250s now. Or like I've been traveling to a lot of ATP 250s in the past. First rounds maybe not the most exciting for non-tennis lovers, so you have some players they might not know playing, but tennis match is always a story in itself, so I usually like watching the beginning because that's how like the story starts unfolding, like what is happening, how tight is this guy, what is
Mm-hmm.
working. But even better when you can edit yourself because you kind of trim that fat. So a lot of the annoying part of watching tennis is, picking up the balls, all the stuff in between, the rest, the warm up, all this stuff. You can just remove that, and
Yeah.
suddenly, like a full match is much shorter because it's just like point, and then it's not that long. So I think people like underestimate like how much fat there is on a tennis match aired on regular TV. There's so much in between time, and actual
Oh,
playing time
yeah.
is quite short.
Yeah, it's a very tricky sort of. I don't know why, like the ATP and the WTA don't basically just put all matches that they film like that, just cut all the
Yep.
fat, like just have 20-30 minute videos just uploading every match, just put them all on YouTube. Like if someone wants to find Alex Mickelson, they're gonna find all his matches in there just trimmed. It's like it's such a weird thing that that we don't get that, you know what I mean, from those, from the ITF, from the ATP, because I think people would watch the crap out of that. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you haven't been able to watch maybe a match, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can watch like this first round in Dallas in literally 18 minutes. I can just sit and watch point by point by point. I can see it's like, oh, here there's some tension that happened, or this guy was just better the entire time. There wasn't even anything. And I think it makes it super easy for a tennis lover to watch a match. Again, I think now we obviously, for YouTube, you maybe sometimes worry about retention and like if it's going to be 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long because of it's a full match. You think people might not stay in the video for as long as you'd imagine. But like people will. If they want to watch the match, they'll watch the match, or they'll come back to the match later. And so I truly enjoyed it, and I wish they just, the ATP was doing that with all the challenger matches, with all the ATP matches. I'm sure the software that Swing Vision does, it cuts all the fat. So why can't you just like somehow figure that out and just upload everything, and then you just have tennis, like such a vast library of tennis that people totally enjoy watching. I don't know. On my end, that's what I want to do, because it's, again, I enjoy watching the matches. I can always go back to a point here, like I did this well. Can I keep doing this again? And I don't know. I enjoy that process.
Yeah, I mean, if in a perfect tennis world, or well, there's very far from a perfect tennis world, but like if, for example, Tennis TV now they offer highlights. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a big fan of highlights. Like I never watch highlights. Like I really don't like it. Like I'm a guy who likes tennis as its story. Like I told you before. I mean, I've said it in
Only
many
highlights
podcasts.
I ever watched was Roger. Like
Well,
Roger had the best highlights ever, so I just like sit down and watch all the Roger highlights. But aside from that, never really sat down to watch highlights as well.
no, that's like watching ballet or something. That if you like
Yeah.
ballet, but it was different, right? But the rest, I don't like watching highlights. But they have this replay feature, but it's pretty lazy. I mean, sorry, Tennis TV guys, but it's like, okay, 2.5 hours. That's just a full recorded match. Like
Mm-hmm.
there should be AI software now. I mean, Swing Vision you mentioned, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm sure ATP can make something even better or use them in some way where they can trim the whole match so you have only the points. They could even have like timestamps for the points. So game 4, click that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see game 4. What happened in game 4? And then you give it, if it's you're gonna have a more expensive subscription, fine. You're gonna have it for the players. Maybe all the ATP top 500 players gets a subscription. They can search the player. Oh, Mikkelsen, you said, I want to see what happened to him in the last 3 tournaments. He lost
Yeah.
3 first round matches. That's a great research for you to be like, okay, go to the database, watch Mikkelsen. Yeah, he's struggling with the second serve. There's something off there. You know that before the match. So this is a great feature to have now that we have all this technology. Just record
Yeah.
and also put Challenger and ATP on the same platform. Like this is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we have the Challenger TV. Why don't you put it on Tennis TV? Like
Just put it
with
on
the
Tennis
matches.
TV.
It's
It makes
point. I
no
mean,
sense. You're so right about that. It's like, why, if I'm watching a replay of a match, why is it that like I there's a warm up, like there's like all the, it's like, why am I seeing warm ups? Why am I just like, why is the breaks in between the like it's like, what are we doing? Like just trim that down. Let us watch the points. Like people would just be consuming the crap out of that. Like they'll just be like, "Oh, this is great. I can watch like this match like really fast instead of having to go like 10 seconds more, 10 seconds more, ten
yeah,
seconds more, 10 seconds more." I'm like, God damn, dude! Like, what are we doing here? I
that's a
think it's
great
such
idea.
an it's such an easy thing that it could be doing. And again, just have that database online, have that database on Tennis TV, have that database on YouTube. It's so simple. I don't know. I maybe makes too much sense. I don't know. Like sometimes I think of things. I'm like, does it make, is it too much sense? Like, is it like, am I missing something? Because it's just such an easy thing for them to do. You know what I mean? They're probably spending money on all things that don't matter, and you could just be doing that, and players will love it. Fans will love it. I don't know.
Yeah, I for sure like I don't use my tennis TV subscription enough. Luckily, my father is obsessed with tennis, so he uses it a lot. But it's like I'm not sure if you're allowed to share. So tennis TV, sorry about that. No, but it's like the Netflix thing, like where they're like, oh,
Yeah,
everybody can share, the family can share, and then you're like, no, no, nobody can share. It's
yeah.
like this
I
funny
mean,
thing.
they're lucky that people are are buying the subscription. So
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think yeah, and you can offer this. You offer matches. The only risk, really, I mean, I guess it's some work. Someone in they need to hire some interns, but I'm sure there's some tennis fans, college players, whatever, who will be open to sitting there and going through matches with the software, whatever needs to be done. But there's even like an incentive then to watch a lot more full matches. I'd stay a lot more longer on the platform, because
hmm
I'm not gonna watch a replay, of a whole match unless I have nothing to do. It's like
hmm
absolutely nothing to do. So but if that's like, oh, it's a 25-minute watch or 30-minute watch, well, then we're talking. Then that's like a long YouTube episode that
yeah, it's like
can,
watching a YouTube
you know,
video. It's easy. It's like you sit down, you press play, you're gonna watch it. It can be in the background. It's like, oh, that was nice. Oh, that was a good shot. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be nice. Maybe soon. Maybe soon they'll do that. But
after listening to this, they will
I
start
know.
working on
Hey, ATP, like get your shit together, man.
it.
Like I mean, I think we talked about it last time I was here. I was like, I went on their YouTube channel and I was like, there's stuff getting like 4 or 5,000 views. It's like yeah, because you keep making videos that no one cares. Like I don't care what Felix eats for breakfast. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. Like just give us tennis, give us raw tennis, give us some practice stuff, give us some tennis, and that's what people are gonna want to watch. Like stop with this BS fluff.
Yeah,
That you
value, like
think
give
people,
value.
yeah, that you think. I think it's just again, it's like it's like that lazy content, right? It's like an easy thing for me to make. It's like, oh, come practice with me a day in my life, like for a minute. I think that's so boring. It's such boring content that is not engaging at all. Like I want people to see like tennis, like people we're playing, we're battling, even if it's like a practice session. Like, but like you're seeing like a lot of the stuff. Um, you can condense things like nicely and make them interesting nowadays. So yeah, hopefully they'll figure that out. I think there's a lot of software for that, and they can figure it out and start posting the matches. I'd love to watch like some of these like 5-setters that happen in Australia, but like just the points, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you miss a lot. I mean, I'm in the West Coast, like you end up not watching a lot of the matches. But I'd sit down, I mean, the following day and watch, like one of the Neil's 5-setters, like for 40 minutes. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll put that in the background, do my work. I have the match going on. Ooh, that'll be cool. You know.
Yeah, they can even have a premium subscription where you can choose angles. So you have like, okay, we did the court level angle, which I would like to
Yeah.
watch a lot more,
Same.
and then like, yeah, for the premium subscription, you have court level angle and no fat in the points. So it's all the
Yeah.
points. I mean, like, I'm subscribing straight away. Don't
Yeah.
need to convince me. It's like,
No, exactly. It's very easy. So, anyways,
yeah, it's what it is. It's what it is. So at what point do you think are you considering like having a coach joining you on your journey? I mean, I know it's a cost thing. It's pretty expensive. You have a fitness guy now.
yeah,
Would you? When would you think about that? When do you think that would be?
I think, um, you know, I'm not too concerned about getting like an actual coach. I think Andrew helps me with like tennis stuff as well. We he can hit, he can keep me in shape, and we can go back and forth on things that I think we think we need to work. Um, so just having him would be great. And he will come to certain tournaments, stuff like that. But he has 3 kids, and it's a tricky thing. I don't want to, obviously, overuse him. But he's filming a lot of our stuff because he has his own social media, he has his own app, so he has basically a full-time videographer with him. So we're getting a lot of good content. So he will come to certain events. But I think mostly like once I'm in challengers, I would like to have someone there to help. Like doesn't have to be every week, but certain weeks, to just kind of push me, hopefully through the finish line on that. Um, but in general, like yeah, I'm not too concerned about traveling with a coach right now. Just having at least someone to talk about things after matches and all that already helps. And then I actually find that the most important thing that you can have, especially I guess at my age, would be someone that keeps my body in a good place. Like tennis wise, it sort of is what it is, and they can help. But I think if I can, have him, he's gonna help me stretch. He's gonna help me like stay in shape with warm ups and all those little things. Like he's gonna activate me nicely before I have to play. He's gonna help me cool down. He's gonna help me do all those things. I think that's more valuable, to be honest. So I would like to have that more often, but I don't think I need it yet. I'm pretty self sufficient and I can go at it solo. So we'll see. But in the future, obviously, if I'm playing bigger events, I would like to have a bigger team with me.
I heard that Boris Becker is free now.
Boris Beckers. Let's see if he wants to he wants a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. When
That'd
he's
be
not
kind
now,
of fun.
yeah, he's
I
not
just
with
can't
Rooney
pay him.
anymore.
I know, but at some point, you know, with Hoger, it's like, you go through that many coaches, it's kind of like who
Mm.
who who is the what's the commonality here? Is like the coaches or the player, right? So it's a tricky one. I don't know the guy, but it seems like he's doesn't know exactly what he's searching for yet. So hopefully he figures that out.
I think in some player teams, it's a lot about like parents being involved. I don't know his mother that well, but I have, the feeling you get from reading articles and is that she's very heavily involved in everything,
Yeah.
and that sometimes I guess works for players. I'm usually a bit apprehensive when I see it, and there's quite a few examples on the WTA. There are a few on the ATP where the father or the mother is always there, but I don't think it's always the best way of approaching things if you can
Yeah, it's like
afford
a
a
weird,
coach.
but a lot of these players that can't let go. They're like the ride or die sometimes with their parents, and I get it.
Yeah.
Like they pushed you, they helped to get to where you are in a lot of ways. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but clearly it becomes a like who is the main voice kind of situation. And then if you're a coach, if I'm a coach, I'd be like, I'm not doing this. Like there are a few people like on tour that I'd be like, I don't really want to work with you. I think Holger would be someone like that, because I feel like who am I working with? Am I working with your mom here that probably thinks she knows like a crap ton, and it's like it's your I think some of the better coaches will not deal with that, and so then who are you trusting? Like if you're not really trusting the person that you're working with, then you know what I mean. If it's just not gonna work, so I mean, I'm sure he'll figure it out, but but at some point you kind of have to be like, I might be the problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, having self awareness is pretty important. I mean, I guess when you're 20, you're not like a master of self awareness, especially if you're, in the tennis player bubble,
Yeah.
where everybody's stroking your ego all the time. So I think
Exactly.
sometimes it's an issue. Sometimes, like, they can't cut that cord, the nurturing cord, or the parent
Yeah.
just loves to be involved because they feel also important. I mean, it's nice to go to ATP tournaments and be treated like a star. Like I would also like that. I
Mhm.
can adopt some tennis player as well, right? Join
Yeah.
them around. Be nice.
It is that I think there's a lot of people who do the job, like the ATP coach or whatever, that they kind of just like the lifestyle. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of great coaches that don't choose not to do it because they don't like the lifestyle. But I think there's a lot of people who might not be maybe totally qualified to do it, but they want to do it. It's like, yeah, I'll travel 40 weeks a year. That'll be fun. You know what I mean? And not that many people will maybe want to do that. So it's a small pool of people, and that's why you see so many coaches kind of getting recycled and all that stuff, because there's not that many people that really truly want to do it. So, um, but again, it's kind of it's tough because again, if you're young and you were the number one in the world player, in the juniors, and then you got to top 100 quick, and you're the shiny new toy, it takes a while for that to fade away, and because there's going to be a younger kid that comes in and becomes the person, but it takes a little while, and probably until then you're maybe not going to get your shit together. But sometimes you do. I mean, you got to give it to some young, a guy like Carlos Alcaraz is not the guy who he is tennis wise if he's not mentally a mature guy in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? I think that's just some people mature a lot earlier in those things, and so yeah, I take each person, I guess, in their own timeline.
Yeah, it's also surrounding yourself with the right people. I think like for Carlos, it was a lot by Juan Carlos Ferrero.
Yeah,
It's like having the right guy who's very mature.
yeah,
He knows what he kind of person he wants to work with, and they form like
exactly.
a strong bond. Maybe sometimes the bond is too strong, and it's like suddenly when he's not there, he's underperforming a little bit. I mean, that's
Yeah,
another story, but you need someone, whether it's a parent or not parent, who's kind of just looking at your best and not looking at their own role in it and just saying,
yeah,
okay, what's best for the player? Maybe I have to take a step back. He needs to add like one more coach or one more fitness person or one more mental trainer to actually have a better mix, because I guess some coaches feel like they believe they know it all, right? So, and then,
yeah.
or parents, and then it becomes like a toxic kind of environment, the whole team.
Yeah, it's like how can you cut the noise for a lot of these guys? Like, I mean, if you're that good and that young and that popular and all that, so you got to cut the noise in a lot of ways. And yeah, for sure, I think the best coaches are the guys who sort of like understand that they don't know everything, and they're like, you know what, like if it's a fitness thing here, we're gonna need to find someone to deal with that, or if it's like a serve thing that maybe you're not as good, you're gonna find like some serving coach and be I think you have to be like to play pro tennis. You do have to be pretty like pliable and open to. I think I heard like Andy Roddick saying recently something like I think he was talking about Nakashima, and he was like, yeah, second year on you had a great year, and then you're in the second year on tour, and people start figuring you out, and obviously you deal with some injuries and all that stuff, and all of a sudden you're not playing your best and you're doubting yourself. But he's like every year, you're in that hamster wheel of like, yes, I maybe just had a great year, but I need to upgrade myself. I can't just stay stagnant, because if I'm staying stagnant, I'm actually like going down. And sometimes those changes take a long time for for them to pay dividends on court, for you to trust those things on court and all that. But it's like you're going to be in this hamster wheel for 15 years now, and you always kind of have to be upgrading little by little, and sometimes like they don't pay off as fast as you want, and you're impatient about it and all that stuff. And so it's a really tricky sport that way, because the moment you think like you kind of got it all figured out, you have a few good months maybe of tennis, and then maybe people figure you out, and then you have to like add a layer to the game, so they don't know what you're doing, and so on and so forth. So it's tricky.
Yeah, you're always riding that confidence. Like as a tennis player, especially like it's a solo sport, so your confidence is everything. And
Yeah.
other players are like sharks, so they will smell. There's someone here with a pretty so confidence this week. I
Hmm.
can pounce. Even if you're
Hmm.
below in ranking, whatever. I think that's always the thing. Like everybody in tennis kind of keeps following each other, and like checking each other out. Like oh, how is this guy doing? How can I beat this guy?
Yeah.
It's really cutthroat. I don't think people sometimes realize like how you're on a tour, a money tour, and everybody's kind of like MMA of ball sports.
Hmm.
So everybody's just like smelling blood in the water, right?
It is. It is. You're just always like you look at a draw. You almost always have like a sense for who is going to win, right? It's like, oh, this guy's been playing well. He's probably going to win this. Like, oh, this guy hasn't played many matches. Like, it's a weird sort of like sense that people can get. It's like, oh, this, especially in the ATP, but you trickles down as well. But yeah, that's what it is. It's like, oh, this guy, that's good first round here. Like, you can tell he's fighting himself in the moment, and that makes your fight, when you have to fight a guy like that, a lot easier. So it's the battle. It's a weird sort of sport that way, right? Because it's not necessarily just about your level, but like how can you put it together every week, right? Like it's a really difficult thing. Like you can say like Nick Kyrgios is probably a top 10 player in the world in terms of level, right? But he's not playing every week and getting the consistency to earn that ranking. So and some people are just going to put their heads down and survive the downturns and ride the upturns, and just get the ranking higher. So it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky sport that way, and it's just the way it is.
How is the vibe on when you travel to tour events, like, and you're like in a player restaurant? I don't know if they do player restaurants maybe in all events, but at least around the other players, is it like a feeling of oh, camaraderie, or is it more like, okay, I'm gonna take you down, or who's this guy, or I know your YouTube channel, like blah blah.
uh, like you're saying, like in the 25Ks that I'm playing.
Yeah, kind of like locker room
Oh
feeling, like
yeah.
is it
I think for the most part, is actually pretty chill. I think once my experience playing futures and even challengers, versus I think on actual tour, the tour is a little bit more like people are a bit more solo and doing their own thing. In the futures, I think we're all in the same, sinking boat. So we're just trying to like all survive together in a lot of ways.
Precisely.
You know what I mean? So it's like there is a like in the U.S. at least that I know the guys. A lot of the guys played college and stuff like that. There's a little bit of that bond of dudes that played college as well. So for the most part, I haven't felt like any like animosity or anything. I think people have been like actually really cool about the channel as well. um and I always had that in futures. Even when I was playing back in the day, I thought like, yes, it's a bit of a tough lifestyle, but in terms of like just the camaraderie at that level, it's actually kind of nice. And as soon as you even go to challengers, you see like guys a bit more professional, traveling with their own coaches and just sort of doing their own thing. And I think it's just the evolution of like as you rise up the rankings. So yeah, I definitely notice even like on tour, it's like you have your little pockets of people as well, right? Like the Spanish guys hang out with the Spanish guys, the French guys hang out with the French guys, the Americans hang out with the American guys. It's a little bit more, and that's just kind of the way it is. Um, but honestly, I was telling someone on a podcast recently, I was like, futures is like it's like the most like raw professional tennis you're gonna get. Right, you get two guys on a court with no one watching for very little money, just following a dream, and they're gonna go duke it out. And there's a a purity to that in a lot of ways. Like it's just pure raw tennis competition. Once you get to top 100, it's great tennis, and it's great competition. But there's the circus that comes with it, right? There's all sorts of moving parts and media and all that stuff, which is again is part of the sport, and that's where we want to get to. But it is fun, if people could watch more futures matches or even challenger matches where it's just purely like two dudes duking it out. It's like um it's actually pretty entertaining. Again, it's like
I
fighting, right? Like a like you're watching like some Dungy fight in somewhere, some dude that's trying to get it to the UFC, but that fight down there, these dudes are like ready to kill each other. Like once you've made your money, maybe you're not so hungry anymore. And you see that with fighters. I like to have a very sort of like short career span though. They're like really, really good, and then it sort of falls down. And obviously, I think it's not the same in tennis, but it's a little bit similar in a way.
Yeah, I think it's a bit similar. I think you notice that when you travel, like sometimes to the ATP 250s, I'm around the locker room. Sometimes if I have like a proper player pass or something, and people are not really talking. They're kind of like guarded, maybe a little bit of a chit chat if you're from the same country in the locker room, but they have their own little team. But then some of the extra excitement is when there's so like even though it's little money on the line, when you're seeing that raw, like you said, it's really raw on a futures level. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
a match like that could be really very really good entertainment, like if in its
Mm-hmm.
entirety. That's what we talked about, like having a full match, because that's actually fun to watch two guys. They fight so hard because every match counts, while sometimes in the ATP, with the higher ranked players, they can be like, oh yeah, I lose this week, and next week I'm going to the ATP 1000 there, or the ATP 500. No problem with
Yeah.
money. Some of these guys have made it already. They're just like hanging around like a Benoit Paire or whatever, going for some red wine afterwards and chilling, right?
Yeah,
So it's
the 250s is like that, especially the guys that get paid to be in the 250s and stuff. You can tell the guy's not really motivated to like totally win that thing, which is again it's understandable. But you got your appearance fee, you're gonna show up, you're gonna play a little tennis, it's fine. Like you're not too worried about it. But yeah, there's totally a rawness to. I mean, I was playing. I think I was in my quarterfinal. Yeah, it was my quarterfinal in Ithaca, and there was a match like two courts down that was so entertaining. Like I was like every time I finished the point, I would just kind of like look there. I always kind of do that. It gets my mind a little bit off the. But man, there was this one guy who was screaming on every point. He was taking it to the seed, and basically outplayed the guy from 6-1, 5-4 serving, and then choked. and you saw like you noticed like, man, this guy's like riding high, and all of a sudden he crashed down and he lost that set, and that was it. And it was 6-1 in the third, and that was it. And but all the way to that point, I mean, I was like, damn, this guy is just like, he came out firing today. He was screaming at every point. He was running everything down, and again, it was like a really raw match. I'm not saying it was the highest level possible, but it was fairly entertaining. It was catching like my attention, and there was guys watching all that stuff. So there is a lot of matches that probably would have been very entertaining to watch had they made it into the internet, you know, like that we will never watch just from a future or from even a challenger, because a challenger, they live stream it but they don't really post it, and who's like really digging deep to find them. But there's definitely something to it. I wish like a lot of this futures matches were just online, you know, like just for people to watch and understand that the level is high and all that.
Yeah, and that's a great storyline because like the choke is known to everyone, and that's the beauty of this tennis scoring system. Like that you can literally be points away from closing the match in 1 hour, going home, all chill, you're the king of the world, and then you just start crashing, right? It's like
Yeah,
the
you
worst sport
crash.
like that.
I mean, I was locked in when he was about to. I was sitting. I remember exactly. We were on a changeover, and he was starting to serve at 5-4. And first point, it was served well, normal forehand. He missed it by like 6 feet, and I was like, "Oh!" I was like, "That
Like,
is not the miss you want right now." Serving after like really getting to here, like unbelievable, like hitting the ball unbelievably well, and you immediately were like, "Ooh, that this is about to get interesting." um and he did. So you know, it is so relatable, and again, I think a lot of players, a lot of subscribers, you know, the 4-5s, the 3-0s, whatever, they think that like we're not feeling the same things, that we don't choke, that we don't make the error. Sometimes you just make an error because you truly like tight, sometimes not
yeah,
like all the time, and they think that we've somehow gotten to a point where that doesn't happen, and it it's always there. Unless you keep fighting that feeling, like I've been trying to tell myself every point that I play, even if I lose the point, even if I make a bad error, I try to say something positive about the point, or even if it's just in my mind. But I'm like, oh, like those some good two backhands there. Like maybe you missed like the you know, the shorter one that you changed down the line, or maybe that was a bad decision that you made a mistake. But up until that point, you were doing well, or like, you know, guy serves really well and you just kind of barely get it back in, and dude hits a return or hits a winner. Great, at least I made him play. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I'm trying to like psychologically keep myself. So it's difficult. You have to be like mentally like sharp to do it, but I it's something I'm trying to do like every match, every point. Just like, how did I get there? Like, even if I made a mistake or whatever, maybe the three balls before I hit great shots, you know, and that's fine then, because we always sort of like judge the point by that last ball, right? Like if you make the
100%.
mistake on that last ball, but like you might have hit like 6-7 great balls to get to that point, and then you just made a mistake at the end. But like it cumulatively, you hit better balls more often. So like trust that, you know what I mean? So it's a weird sort of like mind game I'm trying to play with myself, but it does allow me to stay a little bit more, I guess, positive and almost giving myself more confidence, right? Like if you're coaching someone, I think it comes down to basically like there's this book called Chatter, right? And it talks about like how we're not very empathetic, part of it, like with ourselves. We're very empathetic with other people. If I'm coaching someone and I see the guy played a great point, made just that last error, maybe got a little tight on the last ball, but I'm like, hey, that was a great point. Like do that again, give yourself that chance again. But if it's me, the default is like you do all the great stuff, you missed a shot, and then you tell yourself you're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? But if you're telling
Same.
someone else, you're like, no, that was great. So if you can be a bit more empathetic with that, it's like, hey, you just did great for, you know, this entire point. It's okay if you missed that last one, but give yourself that chance again. Do that again, because that will work. I think that's something that would help. It helps myself, and I think would help a lot of people to just like, hey, I just did good for this. I just hit a good serve here. Yes, I missed the first ball, but like it was a great serve. We can do it again. I can get that ball again. I can hit it a little better.
Yeah, we're our own
It's a lot of
harshest.
mind tricks. It's a lot of mind
Yeah,
tricks. A lot of difficult things. But I think that could be something anyone can do really.
Jedi mind tricks. Yeah, but it's a lot of like harsh criticism when you're talking to yourself. Like everybody's
Mm-hmm.
their own worst enemy, like always belittling themselves or doing stuff that's very common, especially on a tennis court where it's like the most frustrating sport of all time. And you're hating yourself, and then you're loving yourself, and you're hating yourself, and it's like a roller coaster. But I really think it's great advice. Like, do you do a lot of mental work, or like, do you have a mental trainer, or do you try to read books? Do you have a process of meditation? Do you do anything to kind of also strengthen that part of your game?
Um, I'd say I listen to a lot of podcasts, just like random different podcasts. Rich Roll, I like Modern Wisdom. There's like a few guys that go there talk about this stuff. There's like a few podcasts that sometimes when I see the topic, I'm like, oh, this is good, and I don't write much down. It's like I think the important thoughts sometimes like just stick with me. Books wise, I mean I think the best book, the Inner Game of Tennis. I think that's always like
Classic. Yeah.
the default comeback to it is that, right? Like, um, and then I think in tournaments it's like it's tricky, like because it's so easy to just be on social media and be like highly on dopamine. So trying to find moments to just listen, even if you're just listening to a podcast, has nothing to do about mental things, but like allow yourself to just be in that moment. Finding I was listening to something recently, and the guy was talking about like we hear a lot of nowadays about being present, right? But then the guy's like, what is being present? And he's like, being present is being able to just pay attention to one thing. Presence is attention. And it's like, oh, what a simple way of thinking is, right? Like if I'm anything that I'm doing, if it's the podcast here with you, or if it's editing a video, pay attention to that thing, then you'll be present,
Yep.
right? Like it's a so in tennis it's very difficult. Sometimes your attention is 2 points before, or your attention is, it's like, oh my god, I'm about to serve the match, but your attention is not necessary. It's like it's just this next hit here, this next serve here. So again, I think it's a cumulative thing of like listening to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and stuff like that, and just sort of like ruminating over those things that you listen that make sense to you, and then again allowing, I guess, I don't I think a lot of people want the guidelines to how they're gonna get to that mental state or whatever, but it's, for me, is like listen, process all those things from different podcasts or from different books for whatever, and then try to find your own way of implementing those things that will help you. I think some people sometimes don't try and error stuff, like, oh, I'm gonna try this today, and we'll see what happens with mental stuff. So, but for me, that's kind of like an advice that I'd give people. It's like try to be just a little bit more empathetic with yourself. Like, again, like if you're in third person coaching yourself and you're watching, you're like, hey, that was a good point. Like maybe you could have gone cross court on that shot instead of going line on that last one, but up until then you're making good decisions. Let's do that again. It's like, I think it's a good way to just kind of allow yourself to play good tennis versus fighting it to play good tennis.
I think it's really good advice. I think it's also important. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, like Chris Willex, the Modern Wisdom and stuff like that as well. If there's anything
Yeah.
interesting there, and then you pick nuggets. But maybe in tennis, I don't know if you do this, but do you do like kind of like match journaling, or do you write down what happened in this match? What were the key points? Like something afterwards where you can actually. I mean, you're videotaping it, maybe, so that is good.
I was gonna say I make YouTube videos. I think that's kind
It's
of
good enough.
what's been my thing, because like we obviously for some of my matches recently, or even matches last year that I posted, I have to write a script, right? Like I'm gonna write down my thoughts, I'm gonna try to structure the video, and I think that in itself, it's my journal. Like I tried to journal before, and for whatever reason, like it doesn't really totally did it for me. And I think YouTube part of it, because like a lot of it, for example, I'll be playing well and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this and on my forehand, for example, and I think it's helping me and I think it will help people, and then I'll go and make a lesson. That in itself, it's like my journal, right? Like it's gonna be really imprinted in my mind because I wrote down the script. I had to shoot, edit the whole thing. So that entire process of making that video really ingrains in my head those concepts and ideas. So for me, that works. But I do think for a lot of people, journaling is especially pre-match, post-match. It's a really important tool, and I definitely advise people to do so. But there's also like you're listening to something, you got that little nugget of knowledge that made a total sense for you, because a lot of Chris Williams was like some of his the people that go there, like it's not for tennis, right? Like
No.
it's for different life things, right? But they're all like applicable to tennis in a lot of ways. So I think that's kind of the key part of it. It's like, oh, like yes, this can work. Maybe they're talking about business or whatever it is, but that will work in tennis as well. Like that, if I'm thinking about that stuff. So um, again, it's an old guy thing now. Maybe you're not doing that so much when you're in your 20s and you're having early 20s, having a good time, and and so it just comes from experience, and again, I think for me, figuring out a lot of my life when I was off the tour, and then now just being back on tour with a bit more clarity helps a little bit. It was the timeline that I needed. I wish I maybe gotten to that timeline earlier so I had more time, but we're here now and it is what it is.
I think that's a good mindset to have. Like you can't really turn back time. I think you're in a place where you are supposed to be, right? Generally, that's
Yeah.
my philosophy. If you start to think of the past, then it's like you can't control the past, so let it
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
kind of.
it's exactly that. It's exactly that. It's like, yes, some of my peers, team at the time, it's like, man, this guy's crushing it. I'm out here, like, playing college. Should I be doing this? You question yourself because of other people's timelines, but the truth is, like, you're just not going to be able to do anything about it. It's just you just day by day, one step at a time, and you get to where you need to get, you know, naturally.
Yeah,
So
you have your own journey, right? Like it's your journey,
yeah.
it's not someone else's. Like it's I think in sports it gets hard, or in business as well, maybe, because it's so easy to compare. Like you said, it's similar ages, we went to the same college, we went to did this, why he's so successful or she's so successful, and then you start comparing, which is one of the worst things in life to do, is to compare with another
Mm-hmm.
human who has a completely different set of challenges and opportunities than you have, right? So
Yeah,
it's a pointless comparison, really.
yeah, it's exactly. I mean, I sometimes get a little frustrated because I'm like, I look at guys, that maybe I think like I'd have a chance beating, and I'm like, this is American kid, for example, like they're getting a crap load of wild cards, right? Like I look at the draw, and I'm like, who's this guy that got a wild card? He's like 900 in the world, like goddamn. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm Brazilian. We don't have that many events there. We have events there mostly on clay. No one really knows. No one really cares about who I am there. So they're not going to give me any wild cards for anything. And that frustrates me sometimes. Like maybe if I could get a few, challengers in a row, maybe I could do well and maybe establish myself there. But I know I have to go through this grindy process of getting through the futures and getting through the challengers. And that's what's just going to be, if anyone's listening and you have any pull, to get me a wild card into a bigger event, like let me know. You can email me. But I'm fine, with the time, I'm accepting the timeline that I have versus, and the opportunities that I get versus maybe getting a bit too frustrated with some of the lack of opportunity that, you know. I love Chris Eubanks, like he's a great guy.
Hmm.
Basically got a challenger wild cards the moment he left college and just played challengers. He's never won a future, not one future.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
he's never won a future. Because he basically only played challengers from the get go. You know what I mean? I remember, I can't even remember that year how many wild cards it was. That that helps a little bit, right?
Yeah, of course.
You can't say it doesn't help if you don't have to get through, the grind of maybe the futures tour or something like that. So and it allows yourself to play at that level more often, get used to the level, whatever it is. So, that's just, deservedly so. He got a lot of the wild cards and did well in a lot of them, but for a lot of people that don't really get that opportunity, and so you have to grind it a little bit more.
Yeah, life is unfair, right? So it's a tricky. You have to kind of just accept where you are and go from there. Did
Yeah.
you think, like, talking about that, like Felix, he had a wild card to Koblenz now to play
Mhm.
challenger. Lost with Klizan, I think. Martin Klizan was a good player a while ago. Maybe he's still good. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
he was unreal. He could hammer that ball, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's played some amazing matches, and he was a bit up and down. Like a guy I know, he beat him in a challenger, but then the next like months he beat some top 10 player or whatever it was. I don't
Yeah.
remember, but it's like he was very much up and down. Or he's very much up and down. But maybe pulling the YouTube card at some point. Do you think that can give you a little bit more like wild cards, or like, here's, you're famous from a YouTube channel, right? So this
Yeah.
gives some pull, right?
I will definitely like reach out to some people, or like even post a line and see like, hey, like, do you have any, if you have like a tournament in your town that it could be a challenge like that, like, right, like it's a great challenger that probably a small town, and maybe they want to help like promote it. Like I'm open to it if someone wants to again reach out. I had someone reach out trying to get me a wild card to Vienna qualies. Like I don't know if that's gonna work out in a 500. But if you have something, if you have something, on a challenger, on a different event like that, like I would totally take it, of course, and use that card. But again, I'm not really something I'm thinking about. I'm just like, I'm playing the tournaments I'm playing, and then we're riding that. And if the opportunity presents itself, great. If it doesn't, I'm not, going to stress over it.
Yeah, I know some tournament directors. I'll start asking around a little bit.
Yeah, it's
It will
going.
be
If
fun.
you have some tournament guys, like I'll play a couple of events up there, and in Europe, it'll be fun.
I think there should be I think it's also good for the. I mean, I know that for some players this might be like, offensive or annoying. Like, oh yeah, here's YouTubers uh, coming through, whether it's Jules Marie, it's you, or it's Felix or whatever. All good players, obviously, but getting a little bit of extra help thanks to the channel. But if I ran an ATP tournament or a challenger tournament, I would look for ways. I mean, I've been to tournaments where you see very, very little audience and you have very little buzz, and the marketing has not been done, and they haven't done anything, really properly, I would say, to kind of push this event. And to
Yeah,
bring someone there with a big audience and then live stream matches through YouTube, or
yeah,
find a way of making this more engaging through this influencer or these influencers, whatever, I think it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, that's how we grow the sport. Like, we have to use the modern channels. We cannot just expect everyone to turn on Eurosport or the tennis channel where they show pickleball these days, or some like tennis TV. I mean, you have a chance to reach a new audience. Use the guys that are a little bit in that kind of forum already, right?
100%, 100%. I think like definitely the I don't know how much of a moving the needle we would have on a challenger, but like I get sometimes comments, hey, are you gonna play, like, I have a challenger in my city, like, are you gonna play this or are you gonna play that? And I'm like, I would. I mean, I don't know ranking. Someone was like, are you gonna play the Houston Open? I'm like, no. I don't have the ranking for it, but if they, if you know anyone that could offer me a wild card for the qualies, I'd gladly take it. I think like if you're like, hey, like I don't know, because it can be like really a trade, but if it was a bit of a trade, right, like a quid pro quo, like, hey, like you come play, make content, great, like talk about the tournament, be an easy thing to do. um I think it's an easy way to grow the sport. There's not that many of us doing, right, besides Simon, Jules, the Gladiator guys, I think Felix. It's not that many dudes doing it, but um I think I think if we will start like in a weird way, like maybe getting more guys to do it, just because they're seeing that we're getting a little bit of success doing that. And but I think the opportunities will present themselves. I think things are a bit, with this player content creators, like guys that are actually on tour. It's a new thing, and we might start seeing a little bit more of it, and then I think then from there that could, it could expand, and people might start to be like, oh, I can, that might make sense to bring, let's bring all three of them to a tournament and see what happens. You know what I mean? Um, so we're all at kind of like different levels. Like Jules is playing mostly challengers, 200 in the world. Like I'm in the futures. Simon is in the futures and doing like really well in doubles. Probably moving into challengers in doubles pretty soon. So we're all kind of like, in our own lane, but some in a way supporting each other too, with the growth. If any of them grows, we grow, and so it's a good thing to have. Again, I'm not too worried about it because I just feel like tennis, unfortunately, like a lot of people that run tennis, a little bit outdated in the way they think about the promotion of the sport. But maybe we can make a little bit of a change as we continue to grow.
There should be some generational shift, I guess, at some point. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some people, I mean, I know Tim Dillon talks about this a lot, like the boomers, the boomer generation blocking everyone, like,
Mm-hmm.
80-year-olds running for president and whatnot. There's like EU parliament, like just full of people that don't want to retire, that should be
Yeah.
retired, and already, maybe not mental capacity. And I'm a big fan for experience and older people being around, but sometimes they also block, the access for
Yeah.
younger generations to come in, so I think we need some fresh thinking, and hopefully with the social media, with people like you, Simon, and these guys, like to just bring a little bit of spotlight to how tennis could be done, and in the modern world without changing the rules, without doing anything. It's just about
Yeah.
packaging and using modern channels to make the sport better, grow
Exactly.
it.
You don't need to change like rules or best of five. That part of the tennis has to stay. You know what I mean? It's not like UTS is going to be the new, tour. It's nice that it exists, but it's not going to be the tour as we know. So, but if you can package it nicely to a more modern standard, again with bringing the matches and maybe helping guys that are creating some social media buzz, getting to some events, all that stuff. It could make a big difference. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll be on that. We'll trailblaze that, and hopefully, maybe it won't work necessarily for us, but it might work for a new generation of guys. The guys
Yeah.
that are going to be doing VR content, and I'm going to be the old guy, making YouTube videos that no one watches anymore, and people are going to be in their Apple whatever Vision Pro and just on the court somehow. It's going to an interesting shift in content creation, I feel, coming.
Did you try that Vision Pro? I saw
I
some
haven't
videos about
tried
it.
it. I've watched a
Looks
lot of
insane.
videos about it. Yeah, it's insane. Like, I mean, as a first generation thing, like I wouldn't buy it, but if that's the first generation in a few years, like there are use cases for it that I find that even like they could sell a front row ticket to watch a Wimbledon final, and you just sit at home in your Vision Pro watching the match like live in your Vision Pro,
Yeah.
like being technically inside the stadium. I mean, I think in sport VR, like AR, like augmented reality versus VR, right? Like augmented reality and sports, it's going to be like an interesting like thing. Not for
Yep.
training, I saw there was like a Sense Arena, whatever that does. Like, I don't think for training is going to be really a thing, but for enjoying tennis or enjoying, like I'd sit courtside in a Lakers game, but at home, just in my VR, just enjoying the basketball game live. That'd be sick. So that would definitely be some
Yeah,
transition.
that's one way to use it. Yeah, I saw a Casey Neistat's video. It was pretty cool when he's around New York and using that.
Yeah,
I
it was a great video.
Yeah, he has always an original take, and
Yeah.
it's kind of down to earth, which is nice to watch, right?
Yeah, exactly. That he is like, I mean, this being a first gen product, but like blowing people's mind. It's kind of where we want to be. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I kind of have
Has
to get ready to some practice.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
No,
So
you're good.
last question. Because this is a lot of the people listening, not all of them, are racket nerds, and you changed racket from the V Core 95 to the Percept 100D. So let's end with that. How has
Mhm.
that affected your game? You feel, and has it been like a transition period to get into the new racket?
There was a little bit of a transition just in terms of customization. Like, I sort of balanced it the way, not balanced, but I put the weight in the same spots that I had it on the V Core. So I played a couple matches on that UTR event that I was like, it's feeling a little bit heavier. It's obviously bigger head size, so it's not as maneuverable as the 95. So I was playing around with the weight a little bit. By the end of that event, I had found like a good sort of base for it. But in terms of how I'm adapting to it, it was kind of exactly what I I wanted from it. Like how I imagined before, I was like, okay, the VCore 95 is a racket that, it's great, but it does make you shape the ball a little bit more naturally. You wants you to shape the ball to create maybe more curves and stuff. And with this one, it's like I'm gonna play straight. I'm gonna play on a straight line, not necessarily like the up and down of it, but like my direction. Like if I'm playing cross court, I'm playing straight into that cross, and I'm that was sort of the vision, the bigger head size to just give me a little bit more control when I'm taking the ball early. And and so the things that have affected that have had like an effect was like my returns is like so much better. It's crazy how much better I'm like returning. I've always been a good returner, but now I'm like, I mean, I'm stepping inside the baseline. I don't worry if that ball is going to fly on me. I'm just like blocking returns like with pace and just really trusting my returns. And that has given me a lot of freedom, you know, in the rest of the game. Even I was playing with Marcos a few days ago before he left to Dallas, and we hadn't played since I switched, really like played like just sets. And he's like, yeah, man, like it's crazy how much better you're returning with this racket. Like I can feel so much more pressure off your returns now than before. So the return has been a great thing. And in general, I'm really enjoying it's kind of brought me back to certain shots that maybe I had gone away a little bit with the 95. My backing down the line, I trust a bit more with this racket. So that kind of has opened up like the match, the court a little bit more for me. I always had a good back in line, but I think again with the VCore 95, it felt like the ball was always too bendy, where now I can just like I always feel like a straight line, like when I'm hitting it. And then it just kind of allows me to, play jokingly, but like playing that like sort of, Walmart Agassi style, taking the ball early, trying to keep that pressure on. Still, still adapting to certain areas of it. Like I think the volleys, I'm still kind of figuring it out a little bit more. The slice a little bit, but in general, I think it has made what I'm good at like better, and certain things I have to still figure it out a little bit, but the things that I'm good at, I'm really trusting. So it was a weird change. I don't think I didn't expect it really, but um I'm like really stoked about it. I think it was the right move for now playing a full season and trying to play a certain way.
Yeah, 100%. I actually thought about this type of racket for you before when I saw you with the VCore 95,
Yeah.
because like all the VCores are spinny rackets, and they, like you say, very aptly, it's like it wants to shape the ball. You need to shape the ball all
Mm-hmm.
the time, otherwise the ball's going to sail on you. While you're
Mm-hmm.
a Walmart Agassi, you're kind of like I can. I'm saying that in the best of way, right? We got
Yeah.
really good touch and feel and timing with the ball and taking it
Mm-hmm.
early and using the pace and the direction. So I think it makes a lot more sense for you to have a slightly bigger sweet spot, but still a denser pattern, so you can actually
Yeah.
direct with confidence. To
Exactly,
make
that
those.
dense pattern, because it's a bigger head size, is that denser 18, 19, but because it's a bigger head size, it's not like it's too tight, right? It doesn't feel like an 18-20 like really tight thing. It does feel like I can still get under the ball and get some shape on it. It's not like I'm playing like super flat. But in those moments where I'm just like, if it's a return that you're just blocking, or if you're almost like side swiping the ball a little bit to like kind of, keep it low and whatnot. Like my goal is to keep the ball fairly low, right? I don't want you hitting from up here. I want you hitting low and lifting, and I'm the one like moving forward. So that it sort of reminds me a little bit when I was playing with the speed. Like that's kind of what I played for a little bit. I really like that racket, but it was 18-20. It was a longer racket as well. So this is sort of like it's a perfect combination of like ionics that I love, and I always like the speed. I think it's a modern racket for sure. So that combination of like being like a ionics feel racket and shape racket, but maybe a little bit more modern for what I need, versus maybe the 95 can be a bit, again, you're going to play a little bit too shapy with it and maybe handsy with it, where the 95 or the 100, I can just like the power is coming from like the middle of my body, right? Like I'm punching the ball. I'm not like shaping the ball. I'm freaking punching it on both sides. So that's kind of the feeling I want to get, and that racket allows me to do that. So I highly recommend it to a lot of people. I think it's a kind of like a racket that maybe not a lot of people are thinking about. They usually go for the 97s, but this is a really great frame, man. It's really solid. And again,
Agree.
not
Yeah.
sponsored. They give me free stuff. A lot of people think I just like that Yonex is paying me a lot of money to do good press for them. They don't. Like, I just like their products. I've played with Yonex for so long that once you're used to that shape, it's very difficult to get out of it. Um, and their rackets off the rack are well balanced, and they don't have the no quality problems like a lot of other frames. So I think if you're in the market for a racket, that's a good one to try out.
100% agree. Really like that one. And I think Yonex, they do make great products. We know that. Well,
Yeah.
thanks, man, a lot. I wish you all the best in your tour. At any point you want to, connect and update on what's happening in your life and your channel and your pro life, we do that. Always fun to talk to you. You're a very knowledgeable guy. You're also very open and honest and transparent, which I think a lot of the people who are listening to this really enjoy, right? Because let's keep it honest
Yeah.
and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm sure we'll chat pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
If I get one more title, I'll come back.
you will for sure. You will for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Karue.
All right. See you.